Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh everyone, and welcome to the second part of my desk tour. And in this part, inshallah, we are going to cover the books placed here on my desk and have a little look at them. You see, the most important and vital part of my desk, as you can see, that's so appealing and so important to me, are my books. The books placed here on my desk are not just books, but a treasure for me. They have been the part of my journey, the most integral part of my journey. I personally admire all the book readers, and I find it really impressive when I see people who have grand library-like offices and where they do all of their readings and thinking. I personally believe in book reading, and I myself am trying and encourage you all to really develop this habit of reading. It is utmost necessity for success. Now, without further ado, let's begin our book review. First up is my favorite book in the world, a life-changing one, as I always say, Divine Speech by Ustad Numan Ali Khan. This book serves as a head start to review the Quran as literature and really showcases the miracles of the Quran's organization, style, rhythm, flow, and overall logic. Divine Speech was actually a program by Ustad Numan Ali Khan, delivered all across the world, and later it was compiled into a book form. Realizing that Quran is truly divine from Allah Ta'ala, this feeling is actually a blessing, and it opens up our hearts with Iman. And this is why reading this book is necessary in order to pursue our identity as Muslims. This program was truly life-changing, and I cannot stress everyone but to read this book. We'll do a detailed video about it soon, inshallah. Next up is When the Moon Split by Safiur Rahman Mubarakpuri. He is the writer of the very well-known seerah book Al-Rahiq al-Makhtoom. This book in Arabic is called Wanshaq al-Qamar, and it is When the Moon Split, as I said. It is actually a smaller yet concise, interactive version of the book Sealed Nectar, and I personally see this book as the best seerah book for beginners. This book is colorful, which makes it much more easier to read for people like me who find it hard to read simple, sophisticated pages. What I really love about this book is that after each and every chapter there is a conclusion which contains morals and lessons, which serves as a quick review to learn all what is covered in the chapter. And at the end of every chapter there are questions to answer which help us learn and remember seerah very effectively. It is necessary for us to study the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and follow in his footsteps, and I believe this is the best starter for it. Next up we have Motivational Moments by the one and only Mufti Menk, and this is actually the book which contains like short motivational words and tweets of Mufti Menk for everyday needs, for our everyday life. And it covers all the topics like hope, fear, happiness, and all the things that we need and we go through in our daily lives. Here are the contents, and the first page actually gives a little bio of Mufti Ismail Menk, and this is actually the book. Next up, this is the book of the year. I don't even have words to describe how precious this book is for me and Rameen. I actually got to read this book by Prime Minister Imran Khan's advice, and I believe we all should have a keen focus on history, especially our Islamic history. This book serves as a basis for beginners like me to read about history, and I actually feel sad that this is the most basic knowledge we all should have knowledge about, but sadly we are never taught this in our schools, neither in our homes. I wish I had read and absorbed all of this reading when I was in 6th or 7th grade. I was saying this to myself, that I wish I had known all this before. Next up is Purpose of Creation by Dr. Bilal Phillips, another book which I believe is for all the young minds, and all young minds should be striked with this book. This is actually a defensive tool and a need of the hour. After reading this book, we really discover the answer to the question, why? Why were we created? What are we doing here? What is our purpose here? Why did Allah Ta'ala create mankind? All these questions, why, is answered, and it develops a great sense of joy in our beings when we know the answer. And reading this, I was actually feeling the urge to emphasize everyone to read this book. Please read this book. I'm saying to every book that please read it, but for real I mean read. Next up we have the Good Word Book of Quran People for Kids, and this book is actually so much important for all the people who want to learn Quran and read Quran in the first view. This book is especially very important because it contains all of the characters mentioned in the Quran, not just characters but all the people, all the nations, each and every person who has been referenced to in the Quran is mentioned in this book. This book contains more than 130 entries, colored illustrations on every double spread, Quran references for each person, and study question for each entry. So this book is a really good book, especially for kids. And I was not a kid, but I read this book because it's so important for us. So I think even if you're not a kid, you should read this book. And I don't have words, but it's a really good one. Rahmatan lil Alameen by Dr. Eid al-Karni, A Mercy to Humanity. This book is so deep, so pure, and so special. It's not a seerah book, but it is just a book of love for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It talks about Rasulullah's moral aspects, his generosity, his humbleness, his bravery, and just about his life. It's not a seerah book, but it's so nice. It just connects you to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I really ask everyone to read this book and benefit from it. Next up we have another book by Ustad Numan Ali Khan, and it is called Revive Your Heart. As the book says, putting life in perspective. So this book actually talks about the major issues and challenges that our ummah is facing today and how to build a healthy relationship with Allah Ta'ala. I haven't read this book, so I would really like to know your comments on it. How do you find this book? Please let me know. Let's move on to the next one. Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson. Dr. Spencer Johnson. This book has been the book of the year for me because it is a book of change, and it helps you to change, adapt to change, anticipate change, and enjoy change, and be ready to change again and again and again. And this book has been especially important for me for the past year because I'm a person who struggles to deal with change, and this book has helped me about it. So a good one to read. Last but not the least, the very magnificent and the most remarkable seerah book, Ar-Rahiq al-Makhtoom by Safiur Rahman Mubarakpuri. This book, who am I to even talk about it? This book won the Best Seerah Book Award in 1979 by the Muslim World League. What I like about this edition specifically is that it has pictorials and infographics in colored pages, which makes it much more easier to read. I haven't read this book, but I use this as an encyclopedia. But inshallah, I have an aim to read this book. Next up, some other books that I've kept with my journals. This book is about Qaid-e-Azam. My mother gave it to me. I haven't read it, but inshallah I have to read it. It describes all of his journey, all of his life, his biography, and all the main key events, pictures, pictorials, infographics, information. So this is a very good book. Next up we have another book. This is 365 Days with the Sahaba by Good Word Books. Very nice book actually because it contains all the names of the Sahaba at the time of Prophet ﷺ. Like, I read this book, now I know the people who were with Rasulullah ﷺ, and it is so important for us to know about them, like at least the most basic information. So we have that. Then we have another book, Good Night Stories from the Quran. This is actually a book from my childhood. This is actually the first book I read about. I got to know all the stories of the Quran from this book, and I love all the drawings on it and all the beautiful illustrations. They are so cute at the same time, especially this one. So this was the last book that we covered. I have another book, Reclaim Your Heart, but my cousin has borrowed it, so I cannot review that right now. But this is the book. These are all the books in my collection. I hope you like them. If you have any other suggestions, let me know. So these were all of my books. I hope you all liked this video. If you liked it, please subscribe, share it with your friends, and inshallah we'll see you in our next one. Until then, ma'as salama.